We used to have a very clear idea of how to stay safe in the digital world. You built a strong perimeter. Personal computers had antivirus software, gaming companies had exclusive hardware consoles, and corporate networks relied on locked internal servers behind massive firewalls. That clear divide between the inside and the outside is gone. Hyperconnectivity means every device, user, and third-party vendor is in constant communication, erasing the concept of a definable border. The tools designed to break through these old borders are iterating at a pace that defensive software simply cannot match. Threat actors are neutralizing enterprise-grade defenses in real time, completely bypassing the barriers that organizations spend millions of dollars to maintain. Staying viable in 2026 requires rethinking the concept of a perimeter entirely. Major organizations are now reversing years of policy because the walls that once defined their business and security models are no longer holding. Take the Gentleman Ransomware Group. In just 6 months, they have become one of the top 5 most active ransomware operations globally. They achieved this by offering their affiliates a massive 90% cut of the ransom revenue. They can afford that payout because they aren't actually selling the encryption payload itself. They are selling a highly refined framework designed specifically to assassinate endpoint detection and response tools. This diagram shows the scale of their Gentle Killer tool. It maintains signatures to neutralize over 400 security processes across 48 different enterprise security products. It targets market leaders like CrowdStrike, Microsoft Defender, and SentinelOne, effectively blinding the network. And it does this quietly. The framework scans the system, selects a specific attack vector, like unloading a kernel mode driver, and then checks to see if it triggered an alert. If it senses it's being watched, it rolls back its actions to stay hidden from system administrators. This sophisticated dismantling of perimeters is also hitting individual users. Microsoft recently tracked a hybrid Clipper malware that targets cryptocurrency transactions. It spreads through seemingly harmless routes, a USB drive containing fake document shortcuts. Once clicked, it runs a portable Tor client directly in memory to stay hidden from network monitors, and quietly watches your Windows clipboard. The moment you copy a Bitcoin or Ethereum address, it seamlessly swaps it for the attacker's address. Between enterprise-grade EDR killers and silent clipboard hijackers, the most trusted components of a digital environment are now being weaponized against the very people they were meant to protect. Sometimes the failure doesn't even happen on your own hardware. Nintendo invests heavily in internal security to protect unreleased games and source code. But when they suffered a data leak this June, their heavily defended internal corporate systems were never breached. The hackers went through a vendor. They compromised an employee engagement platform called TinyPulse, which Nintendo used for internal workplace surveys. A group calling themselves ShadowBite3s extracted 859 megabytes of sensitive employee data, including compensation details and unannounced project feedback, and demanded a $2 million ransom. They executed an extortion-as-a-service model, extracting payment using stolen data without ever needing to deploy encryption. Spending millions to harden your corporate network means very little if a single third-party survey vendor serves as an undefended backdoor into your ecosystem. Recognizing the danger of open borders, some tech giants are actively choosing to close them back up. Sony is officially ending its 6-year experiment of releasing single-player PlayStation exclusives on PC. The original strategy made sense on paper. By porting older catalog titles to PC a few years after launch, Sony thought they could tap into a secondary revenue stream without cannibalizing their core PlayStation 5 hardware sales. This chart compares the sales data for all 15 of Sony's PC ports. Only 4 titles, including Spider-Man and God of War, hit their profitability thresholds. The rest struggled, with games like Returnal moving a disastrous 185,000 units. What Sony actually experienced was value dilution. If consumers know a game will eventually arrive on PC, the incentive to buy a $500 PlayStation 5 drops. Since Sony relies on hardware sales to drive their digital game and subscription profitability, giving up exclusivity directly damages their core business model. Sony's data-backed retreat reveals a clear limit to cross-platform growth. When software sales on PC fail to offset the loss of console-driven ecosystem revenue, the only viable response is to shut the door. But whether you perfectly secure your technical network or successfully rebuild your corporate platform, your strategy is still subject to a much larger boundary: the global macroeconomic environment. In June 2026, the Federal Reserve, under new chair Kevin Warsh, held interest rates steady, but signaled strict, hawkish forward guidance. They made it clear that fighting persistent inflation takes priority over short-term growth, establishing a restrictive monetary perimeter. This chart illustrates the market's immediate reaction. Risk assets were crushed. Bitcoin broke through critical support at $64,000, triggering a liquidation cascade that wiped out over $350 million in leveraged long positions in just 24 hours. Inside the crypto ecosystem, companies are still building. Ripple is merging its institutional and developer conferences for a massive 2026 swell event. But that internal optimism is overshadowed by these macro headwinds, especially as major catalysts like a BlackRock XRP ETF remain stalled by regulatory realities. Whether it's an enterprise network, a hardware platform, or a crypto portfolio, the assumption of safety behind a fixed boundary has evaporated. Success now depends on recognizing that every connection to a vendor, a market, or a foreign OS is a point of exposure that requires constant verification.